Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lincoln Riley, Chad Bowden, USC. Massive opportunity over the next couple of days to close out on one of the more high profile and, quite frankly, important recruitments for USC in the 2026 cycle. Four-star linebacker Talanoa Ili taking his official visit to USC. Now, there has been a lot of buzz around USC and Talanoa Ili over the last couple of weeks and months, and there's a lot of buzz that this recruitment could be winding down. And I wouldn't be surprised if the USC commitment sweatshirt comes out for Talanoa Ili at some point over the next couple of days. But if there's one thing that would fire me up if I'm a USC fan about this recruitment is it is very clear that Talanoa Ili is one of the most important targets for USC in the 2026 cycle. That's been made clear over the last couple of months. USC hasn't missed on those kind of guys. Mark Bowman, Kenny Pepe, guy like Tom Tom. The guys that USC wants in 2026, they are going out and getting it done for. And Talanoa Ili, I would put in that kind of category of, hey, we think this kid is vital to our 2026 cycle. And especially with Xavier Griffin decommitting, I think all eyes are on Talanoa Ili, and he is going to get the red carpet treatment over the next 48 hours. And here's the other unique part about this. There are players that are committed to USC that rescheduled their official visit so they can be on campus with Talanoa Ili and help recruit him and help him, for lack of better terms, lock up his commitment to USC over this weekend. Now, we're going to start talking Talanoa Ili. There's also a couple other intriguing names that will be on campus for USC that I want to go through as well. Before we get into it, as always, the USC fans, appreciate you guys. And USC commitment sweatshirt sitting right there on the chair. And we're kind of hoping it comes out this weekend. The amount of support that y'all have shown the fellas as we've broken down these visit weekends, as we've talked about the commitments, it been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, we've talked a lot about Talanoa Ili. I have given you guys my pitch on this kid. I think he's one of the most impressive linebackers, if not the most impressive pure off-ball linebacker prospect in this 2026 cycle. And it starts with this: the athletic profile matching up with the football that you see on the field. Yeah, I look at Talanoa Ili and say, all right, 6'3", 220 pounds. This kid flies around the football field. He is clearly the caliber and type of athlete that we need in this modern era of college football. We talk about it all the time. We need our linebackers to be long, and we need our linebackers to fly around the football field and be able to play in space. That is the kind of linebacker USC has tried to recruit over the last 18 months, and I don't think anybody fits that mold better than a guy like Talanoa Ili. But more than just the athletic profile, it's the second part of evaluating these kids. Hey, what are they like as football players? You're not going to find a more instinctual linebacker in this class than a guy like Talanoa Ili. You know, whether it's triggering downhill, firing downhill, and finding the ball carrier, that's there. Picks through traffic extremely well, has phenomenal feel when he's dropping back in coverage and having his eyes on the quarterback, plays in space very well. He's a very good athlete that backs it up with being a very good football player. And when you have those two boxes checked, that's what makes a prospect really special. And I think that's why you've seen USC go after this kid the way they've had. Two other things I'll note. Number one, he's the kind of linebacker you want in the Big Ten. And what I mean by that is look at the Big Ten and look at the different kind of football games you have to play on a week-to-week basis. You might be going on the road to Kinnick Stadium, playing the Iowa Hawkeyes that are going to run 12 personnel and run the football 50 times. Then the next Saturday, you might be going up to Eugene, Oregon, and playing a ton of speed and space at the wide receiver position. You need linebackers that can do it all. Like Talanoa Ili, when it comes to fitting the run and taking on blocks and shedding blocks and supporting the run, he's elite. When it comes to running with tight ends and dropping back in coverage, he can do that as well. In this Big Ten conference, you see all sorts of different kind of offenses, and we need linebackers that can play in space, run with teams like Oregon, but also have the physicality to go on the road and play Iowa in November in Kinnick Stadium. Talanoa Ili is that guy. Number two, and this would excite me as well, pairing Talanoa Ili up with the caliber of defensive line that USC is going to bring in is massive. Oftentimes the linebacker's ability to impact the football game in a meaningful way starts with what kind of defensive line do you put in front of them. You put a defensive line in front of them that's winning the point of attack, that's creating a lot of space and keeping your linebackers free. If you can do that, and then you couple that with a linebacker who I believe is as special as Talanoa Ili, that's how you get the best out of your front seven. And we all know what USC has done on the defensive line. And then you pair that up with a guy like Talanoa Ili who can impact a football game in a way that not many other linebackers can. It's what you're looking for. And again, that's probably where I cut it off with Talanoa Ili. He is a guy that can put a massive fingerprint on a football game. There's a difference between these linebackers that will have 120 tackles, but only 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and making their plays 5-6 yards down the field. All right, we love linebackers who are tackling machines, but the elite linebackers, they impact football games in meaningful ways. They create tackles for loss. They create negative plays. That's the kind of guy Talanoa Ili is. He's I think the biggest remaining target left for USC in the 2026 cycle, and they're going to look to lock this one in over the next 48 hours. Now, I'm sorry, we just spent 7 minutes almost talking to Talanoa Ili. I think that tells you how much I like this kid. I want to talk about a few other names that are getting some buzz. Let's start with Jet Washington. This is probably number 2. Like, if you're talking about like top targets for USC in 2026, I think USC really likes Jet Washington. Now, we have to figure out how much they really do, because if you want to land the commitment of Jet Washington, you're going to have to be really aggressive here. Rightfully so. I mean, he's 6'5", 200 pounds. Jet Washington is a freaking unicorn. And very similar to how we talked about with Talanoa Ili, Jet Washington's one of those guys that is so meaningful in the Big Ten Conference, where he's 6'5", 200 pounds. If you want to walk him into the box and have him support the run when you're playing a team like the Iowa Hawkeyes, he can do that. He's just as big as some of these linebackers, but his ability to play as a single high safety and cover a ton of ground and be really impactful in the back end, that's there as well. He's this defensive chess piece that brings an athletic profile that's extremely rare to see. We'll see how bad USC pushes for Jet Washington. Now, he took a midweek visit where, we'll say this, it did seem like he got a little special treatment. Was one of the only guys on campus. I think the staff showed him a lot of love. We'll see what that means for USC's chances with Jet Washington. Couple other names that we haven't talked a ton about because I don't think USC leads for these guys right now, but you're getting them on campus. And we've seen USC get guys on campus and change recruitments real damn quick. Ethan Booby Feaster from Texas. USC's had success going to the state of Texas the last couple of classes. What stands out to me about Ethan Feaster is he's just a playmaker. He's a guy that reclassed from 2027 to 2026, has been extremely productive at DeSoto, Texas the last couple of years. He doesn't have crazy track times. He doesn't have this crazy size. But then you turn on the film and say he just seems to make so many plays. He has that it factor about him that not many other wide receivers have. I think in an era where we get so wrapped up in the size, speed profiles, that's how we talked about Makai Lemon coming out. We everybody wanted to talk about Deuce Robinson because he was 6'6", and everybody wanted to talk about Zachariah Branch because he ran a 10.3 in the 100-meter dash. You looked at Makai Lemon and say, well, this dude just produces, is just good at football. It might not be because he's the biggest and fastest, but he's a damn good football player. It's kind of how you talk about a guy like Booby Feaster. And then you have a guy in Jaylen Lot from Texas. Here's the connection here. I think his older sister runs track and field for USC right now. Two-way stud. I mean, it's a guy that could play defensive back. He could play wide receiver. He's elite with the football in his hands, and he has a unique track and field background. The straight line speed is there. You can see that on the film, but my favorite aspect about Jaylen Lott's game, and an aspect that I feel like flies under the radar when we talk about these kids at the high school ranks, the quick twitch, the short area ability. Jaylen Lot is has an elite jumping profile in track and field. It's not necessarily the elite 100-meter profile, and we love to say, hey, he runs a 10.5. But he's a great jumper, And you see that on the field, his ability to change direction, his ability to be explosive, his ability to go to 0 to 60 and accelerate the way you need elite wide receivers too. It's all there for Jaylen Lot. Now, viewed as a little bit of a two-way guy right now, I think most programs are leaning to him playing wide receiver, and I ain't going to argue that. This kid with the football in his hands is absolutely dynamite. When you have guys that are two-way dudes, the guys that just seem like they have that it factor with the football in their hands, that's when you want them to play offense. And that's, to me, Jaylen Lot. He just has that ability to change games when he has the football in his hands. How about last name? And another name that there was some buzz around USC and then maybe not so much buzz, Peyton Dyer from Georgia. Hey, USC, look, USC is going to make sure they clean up their backyard on the recruiting trail. They're still not afraid. And that's the conversation we've had for the last 12 months where we felt like at times, really before Chad Bowden got to USC, they spent too much time in the state of Georgia or in the state of Texas or in the state of Florida, and it came at the expense of recruiting the state of California. Now it's, hey, we're going to focus on the state of California. Nothing's going to take priority over that state, but we're still USC. We're still a national brand. We can still go to Georgia, go to Florida, go to Texas and land some of these cats. Well, Peyton Dyer's one of them. This guy loves press man coverage. He loves it. And he's not really physical cornerback. He's not the biggest. He's not the longest, but he's extremely physical. Now, Peyton Dyer will have to learn to walk the line when he gets to college because he gets handsy at the line of scrimmage. I'll say this. I'd rather have my cornerbacks be too physical and teach them to tone it back a little bit, yank the leash on them, as opposed to having cornerbacks that aren't physical enough and you have to try to coach that into them because that's something that's hard to coach into. If you ain't a physical football player at high school, you're probably not going to be super physical in college. Give me the guys who want to be physical, and if it's a little too much, hey, we'll yank the leash a little bit and kind of tone it down. But give me the guys that I need to teach to be a little less physical than to teach to be a little bit more physical. That's Peyton Dyer. We got a couple names that, again, Jaylen Lot and Booby Feaster and Peyton Dyer, guys that we haven't talked a ton about that there has been some smoke and buzz around. We'll see if that smoke and buzz can kind of get reignited, you might say, during their visit. But make no mistake about it, front and center, Talanoa Ili. It's time to close for USC, and we'll see if they can get it done. Hey, I wanted to comment on that Learfield partnership deal that USC Athletics just entered into. This is a little out of my scope. Yeah, I ain't no business guy. That continues to align with what we've talked about all offseason, and that is USC is trying to maximize all aspects of the program and, quite frankly, the athletics department. And in an era where NIL and soon to be revenue sharing is going to be so important, if you can maximize those things as well, it's one thing to be a big brand. It's another thing to be a brand that brings in a ton of money. That's going to help you in this era of college football. And I think that's one of the things you're seeing USC do is it felt like at times USC was a little bit behind the trends as this sport has changed. Now they're going to be the leader, or at least they're trying to be, and it's obviously working. So that's kind of my take on that. Wanted to comment on. I didn't want to get too much into it because it's a little out of my scope. We'll close it down there. All right, appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, the amount of support means the world. USC commitment sweatshirt sitting right there. We'll see if it comes on. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.